everyone. Welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we believe in empowering women through storytelling and education. And I'm excited about this week's episode. I have on Jenna Hua, and she is the founder of Million Marker, and we dive deep into toxins, our environment, fertility. We talk about different studies that there are out there on different toxins and things that are affecting fertility. And she's just such a wealth of knowledge. I could have talked to her forever because I want to ask all of the questions. But then again, like learning so much, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get rid of all these things. I have to change all of that. And things cost money to change around in your house or to make like shifts, but doing it small. So when you run, for me, I guess, like when I run out of something, I try to buy something in its place that, for example, like I ran out of Ziploc bags, so I got reusable ones that are silicone, things like that, and just making small changes that can have an impact because there's so much that's out of our control. And that's like where I'm like, but what can we control? But also, like I said, it costs money to make these changes. So just doing small things whenever we can is a big help. And we're going to dive into all of that information. If you're listening, make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast, that you share, and that you join our Facebook group, and that you reach out to me with different guests that you want to have on, different topics you want to learn about, and I will do my best to make it happen. All right, let's dive in. All right, everyone, I have Dr. Jenna Hua here, and I'm super excited to talk to her because she is this amazing woman who is a doctor, a health scientist, registered dietitian, and the founder of Million Marker, which is a health tech startup that is dedicated to empowering people with the data and tools to determine how the products that they are using, the food that they're eating, the water that they're drinking can negatively or positively influence our health. And she is super passionate about this subject and getting this information out there so people can start to make these changes because we are seeing how all of these things are truly affecting our health, and it's not really talked about. So I'm really excited to dive into this podcast. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Liz, for having me. I'm also super stoked to be on your show.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's just dive right in there. Like, how did you get into this work and decide to even like come up with this test that that you can actually test like how many chemicals are in your body, or not chemicals, what, like toxins, or how does it work?
Yeah, you can call them toxins, chemicals. Yes,
okay.
Interchangeable.
Okay, yeah. So how did you start all of this?
I started, at first I was in your bio, that I was a dietitian. I was actually working in a hospital, but nobody really listened to me. So I decided to go back to grad school to study environmental health. At the time, I thought, if we can actually change the environment, then people are forced to change. Maybe we will decrease the access of fast food. Then, if we don't have access to fast food, then people are forced to eat healthy food. Then, I don't have to tell people what to do, because automatically they're forced to do it. So that's what I studied in grad school. But then as I studied more, I realized, it's not just like what we eat, where we shop, but it's also what's in our food, right? And it's also what's in our product. But there isn't really a good way or convenient way for people to know this information. So that was what I ran into during my research, that we have no data, we don't know how to study it, and people have lack of awareness of these things. So that was a hurdle. And during that time, I was also, trying to get pregnant. And after like my fourth late stage miscarriages, and the doctor couldn't figure out what's going on with me. And they just didn't know. And I knew I studied these chemicals. When you have anything unexplained, you started exploring yourself. And then I went to the doctor. I was like, well, I study these chemicals. I know the environment could have impact on your fertility. Is there a test that I can take to understand, my exposure? Is there anything I can do about it? And even just for a sense of assurance, I know that, I can search for other reasons, not this one. But when I went to the doctor, they were just like, okay, there's no such thing available. The only closely related environmental test is heavy metal. Mm-hmm. But other than heavy metal, there's like nothing else you can do. I've done a ton of genetic testing and all other testing, but there's like, okay, the information, like it's great information, but there's not much I can do with that information. rather than just having that information. But I felt like environmental exposure is something that if you know, you can actually do something about it. If you don't know, you won't do anything. So it was a bit mind-boggling this day and age. We can test our genes left and right, which we cannot do much about. But for the environment, you can actually do something about it. We don't have any tools. So then I figured, since nobody's reading my papers anyway, as an academic, I should do something else that make it a little more impactful. So equip people with the tools and knowledge so they can actually do something about it, these exposures.
Yeah. So then you came up with this test, the million marker, and how does that work?
So right now we offer a direct-to-consumer test. It's a mailing urine test. People can simply order a test kit online, pee in a cup, send it to us. We do ask people to complete an exposure survey, either on your own or, with us. So then we can actually pinpoint, figure out, what's going on in your life, what's your lifestyle like, what are the products that you're using. So then paired with your test results, we can actually let you know, okay, these are your potential exposures, and then these are the actionable steps that you need to do. We also curated a whole list of a good product that's low toxin, low toxic. So then people can swap that out to make changes and then reduce your toxin exposures.
Yeah, I was looking at that on your website. I feel like over the last year, I've slowly, I just got the reusable Ziploc bags versus the other ones. I just switched over to that. But it is a lot. It's a lot of information when you're learning it, and it's a lot of holy crap, I need to change everything in my life, basically. And even when I heard about your test, I was like, do I want to take this? Do I want to know how many toxins are in my body? But it's good to know, because if I'm so what are we doing with these results? Once you get these results, let's dive into maybe how they could be impacting you.
So the chemicals we're testing currently, our first panel, these chemicals are called endocrine disrupting chemicals or hormone disrupting chemicals. It means it disrupts or it messes with your hormone. Your hormone is extremely important. Anyone who's gone through pregnancy, that hormone really support the pregnancy. But for anybody, kids, young, old, everyone, because hormone is the one single most important thing in your body that actually controls most of your bodily function, from metabolism to your mood to your sleep, everything. And then hormone works in such tiny amount. They work in kind of like a lock and keys. So when you have these foreign substance, we call it xenoestrogen, these toxins come in, they kind of a mismatch. So then your hormone where it's supposed to go, it doesn't go anymore. Then as your hormone works as an orchestra, kind of in your body, everything is really tightly synchronized. When this come in, it just doesn't synchronize. Then it kind of give you a whole down the stream health impact. That's why we really care about these chemicals. So the top three, which are in our panel, people might have heard about BPA. So you can see your plastic bottle BPA free. Some of the canned food, you can see BPA free. So BPA is kind of the poster child of environmental toxins. It has been banned a few years back. However, when it's being banned or when manufacturer labels BPA free, it actually doesn't mean it's other BPA alternative free. What has happened is we banned BPA, but industry start using other alternatives like BPS, BPF, or even BPAF, a combination that you can't even imagine that could happen. But these alternatives are actually just as bad as BPA. So we often tell people, okay, avoid touching thermal receipt, your gas station receipt, your grocery receipt, have those email it to you. If you absolutely have to touch it, make sure you wash your hand after, because that's a big exposure source. Canned food is another one. All these hormone disrupting chemicals have been shown to impact fertility, not just women, but actually in both men and women. And these chemicals have also been shown, they decrease sperm quality and also sperm count. Not only that, there have been studies showing these higher exposure to these chemicals are linked to child development issues, ADHD, higher allergy, and then down the life, there's also impact on breast cancer and obesity and diabetes. So anything to do with hormone, anything to do with metabolism, these chemicals could impact. So it's like really, really important. So BPA is one of them. Mm-hmm. We also test for 13 other chemical metabolites that belongs to the phthalate family, the paraben family, and also the oxybenzones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break from this episode so that I can share one of my favorite maternity and nursing clothing brands, and that is Kindred Bravely. I know a lot of people have reached out to me about like, what maternity pants should I get? And I've tried so many different ones, and Kindred Bravely is by far the best. So I bought these pants like with my last pregnancy with Jovi, and then I wore them all postpartum. And then this pregnancy, I bought 2 more pairs of those pants because I'm like, I'm not wearing anything else. Like I eventually need to wash these. And I'm also wearing them postpartum. They're so supportive and so comfortable. Their sports bra, nursing bra is also my favorite because I love that they have variety of sizes and they're wire-free, supportive. And when I'm nursing, my boobs get ginormous. And so it feels their sports bra feels so supportive, but then it also has the nursing features so I can easily clip and unclip to feed my babies. So, it's a game changer. And then I recently also just got, their pajamas, which I'm obsessed with, and underwear. I just tried out their underwear a few months ago. I was at the point again where I'm like, okay, all my underwears have holes in it. So I ordered some from Kindred Bravely because I'm like, I love all of their other stuff. I haven't tried their underwear. And I got some, and they are so soft. They're so soft. And I cannot speak highly enough about this company when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum because all of their items are such good quality, so soft, and they even have different options like bamboo fabrics or organic cotton. So many different things to choose from, bump-friendly tops and bottoms, and you can even get flattering labor and delivery gowns, so you don't have to wear the like stiff, itchy hospital gowns that they provide. But this is always my go-to maternity and even now postpartum company. So I've been wearing them for 2 years now. And I'm really excited to be partnering with them and to give you guys a discount code. So visit kindredbravely.com and use the discount code Miraculous20 to save 20% off your purchase. Save 20% off your purchase when you use discount code Miraculous20 on kindredbravely.com. I remember I don't remember whose podcast I was listening to, but somebody was on there talking about the BPAs, and then she was talking about receipts and how the thermal receipts are very toxic. And I was like, oh my gosh. So whenever they're like, do you want a receipt? I always say no, except for when you're at Costco, you have to take your receipt because they check all the items. And every single time I'm at Costco, I like try to just hold my receipt by the corner and then I like hand sanitize when I get in the car. Cause I'm like, oh no, like, cause this lady was talking about how like you just shove receipts down in your purse or whatever. And like, they're just toxic. And that's like one thing that you wouldn't really think about that you're being exposed to is like, okay, I go to the store and I get a receipt and then I'm exposed to like a chemical that could affect my hormones, that could affect my fertility.
Yes. So I do the same thing. Like I just like touch the corner because I also go to Costco. Yeah. That's exactly what I do. But then, these things is like, if you know that information, then you become aware like every single time. So then you totally reduce your exposure. Otherwise, exactly like that lady said, you're just going to shove all the receipts to your bag. And then maybe you will touch it over and over again when you try to do your books. And I mean, if you don't know, it's just like, you wouldn't act on it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or at the post office, like if you need to keep the tracking number and I'm like, because now I think about it every time. Because I had heard that like on another podcast that was talking about hormone disruptors and stuff like that. So, and I feel like phthalates it's something that a bunch of us have heard now because you see it marketed, right? Like companies are really, really good at being like paraben-free, phthalate-free, all these things, but that still doesn't mean the product is non-toxic. Or like you said, the cans that are like BPA free. And it's like, they're BPA free, but now they're using BPA, B, C, D, F, G, you know, like.
Exactly. So for phthalates, people should really pay attention on, you know, reading labels, product labels. There are some phthalates just hard to avoid. There are two big categories of phthalate. There are usually two kinds. One, we call it low molecular weight, meaning they're less weight. And then another one is high molecular weight. Low molecular weight ones, they usually appear in personal care products. So whenever there's like fragrance, like on your ingredient label, okay, ditch that, because 90% of the time it's going to have phthalates in that product. Even like supplements, medications, sometimes the coating of the supplement can also be made of phthalates. So when you choose for supplement, whenever there's like slow release, pay attention on that, because the coating prevents the stomach acid from, you know, degrading the vitamin and the medicine. So then watch out for slow release, and then make sure whenever there's a capsule, choose vegetarian capsule. So that's usually safe. Could be without phthalates, but many times it's because supplements like not regulated at all, same as personal care product. It's just hard to say. That's part of the reason we really want people to test themselves. Then you can kind of isolate what's going on, because you just don't know which product could actually have it. And yeah, look for fragrance-free. Whenever there's also manufacturer were trying to, like, you know, confuse people. Now we have seen like instead of using fragrance, they will use aroma. But it's the same thing, you know, like aroma and fragrance it's pretty much the same. But people think, okay, there's no fragrance, I'm just looking for fragrance free. And then when there's aroma, I'm just like, I pick this aroma, but it's the same thing. So opting for fragrance free, and also unscented is actually a scent. So like always look for fragrance free, like forget about unscented, forget about aroma. So that's usually in personal care product. For the high molecular weight phthalates, that's usually in plastic. So both BPA and phthalates are also plasticizers. So BPA actually makes the plastic really shatterproof, whereas phthalates making the plastic flexible. One biggest tip is never, ever microwave plastic. Many people also, you know, if you want to microwave warm up your food, people always like, you know, you put a saran wrap on top of your food and then you go microwave that thing. And then that saran wrap most of the time will have phthalates because it makes that plastic flexible. And then by heating it, you're literally releasing just thousands of these chemicals into anything that comes to contact with your food or you, because the heat actually like increase the releasing of the chemicals. And the same as people, you know, leaving a plastic water bottle in a car and the car baking in the sun. And every time I see people buying bottled water, putting in their car and sit there a long time, like I just like have the urge. I wanted to tell them, hey, don't do that, because it's like really bad for you.
Well, and not only like after you buy bottled water, don't leave it in your car, but those water bottles have already been on semi trucks, like being delivered. Yes. Like who knows the type of environment that they've been in. And so that's been a change that we've made is we got a reverse osmosis system in our house.
Perfect.
But I didn't know that I needed to be adding trace minerals into it because everything was taken out. So I recently started like adding the trace mineral drops to like, you know, add some nutrients back in it, especially I found out like being pregnant and then breastfeeding, and now I'm pregnant again, and they're really close in age, and I've just been pregnant or breastfeeding for almost 2.5 years now. So that can deplete like your mineral stores and things like that. So like I need to like add those minerals back in. But we still
you're the super mama.
We have so many changes we need to make still. But we keep plastic water bottles in our fridge in our garage because my husband's family likes to have them when they come over. But my husband will drink them when he's like working outside, and I yell at him all the time. I'm like, babe, we have this water system for a reason. Don't drink the plastic water bottles. Like, don't do it. But it's like hard.
Or put the water in your glass bottle or stainless steel bottle and drink that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it's hard, especially like if you're on the go. So like if I'm traveling or at an air, like different places. And that's the thing that I was realizing before we started this podcast today was it doesn't matter. Like, I feel like how much change, like there's only so much you can do because I was feeding my daughter breakfast and, giving her some yogurt. And I was like, this yogurt, even if I buy organic, grass-fed, whatever, it comes in a plastic container. Like everything's in a plastic container. So it's so hard to avoid.
Yeah, so we have this really complicated relationship with plastic, right? We can't get rid of plastic ever, like completely in our lives. So that's the thing. I think that's a mindset we really want people to switch. Yes, we can't get rid of it, but you should try to get rid of it as much as possible. We don't want people to be stressed because oftentimes when people stress, it's like you get overwhelmed. It's like, okay, forget about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to change. I don't want to know my results. I just don't want to do anything. I got enough worry on my plate, you know? But at the same time, it's like, well, it's kind of like a long-term investment for your health and then for your family's health. And not only that, it's actually an investment for the environment, like in the future, because the moment you start using less plastic is actually good for the planet, good for the next generation. So I think this is the mindset we want people to have. Yes, you can't completely get rid of it, but you should try as much as you can. The other analogy like we also often use is because we're exposed to so many things all at once, day in and day out, sometimes you just don't know when your cup is going to fill up, right? So then you should always try to reduce as much as possible and slow down that process.
Yeah. I always think about it. We don't order takeout very often, but when we do, it's like hot food in the plastic containers. Yes. And I'm like, put it in a glass bowl, like as soon as you get home and like, get it out of there.
Yeah. You're doing exactly the right thing. Like, I'm Chinese and I love soup. Like soup have to drink hot. And then during the pandemic, it's just being so hard. I got so tired of eating my own food and I really want to get that takeout. But that like just thinking about having that hot soup in a plastic container, I'm like, oh man, like.
Right. Can you guys send me cold soup? I'll heat it up at home, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. I know it's hard because I'm that person that will like drive myself crazy. Just because like I'll start thinking about these different things and then I'm like, oh my gosh, is like my daughter breathing in all these and it's like, you can only do the best that you can. So it's like, it's hard, figuring it out. We're going to take a break from this podcast so I can share with you something that has been helping me nutritionally. So I am doing my best postpartum to try to eat well, but with 2 kids under 2 years old, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to eat this meal, or I'm snacking off Jovi's plate, or just like grabbing something on the go. So I know that I need to fill in the gaps. And my digestion has been so messed up. Also postpartum, I've never dealt with constipation and bloating like I have since I had Tula. But that's where Bloom comes into the picture for me, because Bloom Nutrition has this like so many awesome, different supplements on their website, and I've been using their greens and superfood powder that helps fight bloating. It aids in digestion, increases natural energy, and also is really good for your skin. The Bloom greens are packed with over 50 nutrients, including whole fruits and veggies, fiber, probiotics, antioxidants, and more. And it's all in one easy to drink formula. So you can mix it in your water or blend it into a smoothie. It comes in 4 different delicious flavors: coconut, mixed berry, citrus, and original. I've been using the mixed berry and absolutely love it. So whether you're like me, just like a busy new mom on the go who needs to add some more nutrients to her diet, to help keep things regular, which it's helping for me, definitely check out Bloom Nutrition. Or if you're just really into fitness. It aids in so many different things. Check them out. Right now, Bloom Nutrition's offering the listeners 15% off your purchase of their greens and superfoods blend when you go to bloomnew.com/mamas. That's BLOOMNU.com/mamas for 15% off your purchase. Go to bloomnew.com/mamas for 15% off. I would love to touch on fertility a little bit more because you had talked about sperm health, and it's super interesting. Like there's a lot of different things that correlate. So like since we've been using a lot of single-use plastics and different things like that, the sperm count for men has decreased over the last 80 years by like 60% or something.
Yeah.
And that's wild. And it's not only the toxins in their system, but like our parents, like, can we carry that on? Like, is the toxins building up in my system? Is that being passed on to my children?
Oh, yes. There has been research to show that. For the longest time, we actually believe that these chemicals don't pass, placental barrier, but they actually do. So, mom's exposure will definitely pass on to the kids. And we have also seen when these are all, we can't really do this kind of study on human because you can't expose, it's like unethical to expose human to this and then observe, right? So we have a lot of animal models and they have shown in animal studies the previous generation's exposure is definitely showing up in the third generation. So that means your grandparents' exposure is showing up in your body too. So that's why, why we want people to pay attention on these things, because not only for yourself, right? It's like literally for the generation down the road that you're exposing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had heard something about the third generation too. And I'm like, that is wild. That's so crazy that passes on.
Exactly. So when consumer is become aware, we can actually demand action. And that's another point that we want to get across, that empower people with their own data. So then collectively we can demand, because we have seen that, BPA has been banned because all the moms that, they lobbied, they protest, against why having BPA in baby bottles. And that's how BPA gets banned. What we need to also be aware is, so if we ask of anything to be banned, we need to ask a whole class of chemical getting banned instead of just one at a time, because that's exactly what happened with BPA. What we should have done is we asked for the entire class of bisphenol getting banned instead of BPA. So BPA alone. So then we had these what we call it regrettable substitutes. So now we have BPS and BPF. And then that's one thing that scientists trying to urge the government to do with these forever chemicals. You might have heard of them also. Yeah. It's the Teflon. They're usually in Teflon pans, and then water resistance coating on raincoats and other things. So these PFOA, PFOS. So scientists really urging the policymakers to make sure we're banning as a class, not just one, because again, they could alter a one single part or a single molecule of the chemical, and you have a whole new one, which is just as bad as the original one, if not worse.
Right. So people are thinking, I'm buying this pan, it's Teflon free, so it's good, but it's nonstick. Yeah. So it's just replaced with a different chemical.
Exactly. So for pans, I would, to be on the safe side, I would always recommend a stainless steel, cast iron, or ceramic or clay. Those are usually the safer choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's just so much out there. I don't understand why the government wouldn't ban it.
Long history, and our chemical industry is actually very, very powerful. I would say big chemical, kind of like big food. Why are our food so cheap? That's not nutritious. Compared to the EU, compared to many other countries in the world, our kids are not really eating nutritious food, right? Which is just really crazy. And then our food is so cheap, and then with huge portion size, and the quality is way worse than many other developed countries. That's just crazy.
Right.
But I think it's the same thing as big chemical, big tobacco, big food.
Well, you look at Europe and they have how many chemicals banned in personal care products that we don't?
I think over 3,000 have been banned in Europe, and then we didn't ban any of them. Same as besides the personal care product chemicals, there are also a lot of pesticides that has been also banned in Europe that's not banned here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Ugh, so frustrating. Because then you hear
that totally
you're like, these other countries are banning these things for a reason. And then it's like, why can we not ban that here? Like, do you guys just not care about our health? Or, like, I know it goes so deep. It has to do a lot with, like you said, big whatever.
Yeah, and then like, because like so many scientists studied so much about BPA and the BPA alternatives, and EU literally just like, I think a couple months ago, even just last month, they slashed the BPA limit to another 100,000 fold. So like any food contact material in the EU, they actually test for it. Like, for us here, not only we don't test for it, our limit is like way higher. And then there's like a no regulation. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, I think that now there are people urging our government also trying to do the same. But for us to get there, it's still going to be a while. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, we want everybody, to take actions on your own so that you can actually prevent these exposures.
Mm-hmm. So I might be wrong with this. You'll have to tell me. But when it comes to the kind of like the endocrine disrupting hormones and fertility, they're showing that I believe that it kind of has a bigger impact on baby boys versus baby girls.
That's usually when it comes to phthalates.
Okay.
So phthalates particularly attack the androgen. So that's usually impact on baby boys so much more than baby girls. And that's why phthalates is also the chemical that linked to the decreased sperm count and then decreased sperm quality. So like all the men's like, because, my husband doesn't care about these chemicals. I've talked to many other ladies or many other ladies order it for their husband because they don't care. But actually in any cologne or a lot of hair products that men are using, it's just as bad. Deodorant is another big one. So, all the ladies out there, all the mamas out there, get your husband, get your partner to, change out their products. Just, simple swap, shampoos, hair products, deodorant. These things you don't buy every day. You don't use up every day, right? You buy it once and you use it for a while. So these things, you buy them once, they don't have to think about it, just then you can kind of be reducing the exposures and be a little more cleaner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. So I cut out perfume probably 3 years ago. I never used it like consistently, but now I realize that I'm so sensitive to it. Like if somebody like comes into the room and like has perfume on, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like so strong.
I think it's kind of like the similar things that once you not using it for a while, and it's almost like our taste buds, like in our mouth, our taste buds actually changes every like 3 weeks. So it's like when they put kids or put anyone on a like really healthy diet without any fast food, after 3-4 weeks, if they don't consume that fast food, they will eventually just, next time they eat it, it's like, oh, this is so gross. Why didn't I know this before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so crazy. So I'd love to maybe go over a few more things in our homes that we can change. We talked about cookware, personal care products, maybe like candles, getting rid of candles or scented things.
So scented thing like air refreshener is bad. Also, you're like not spraying it. It gets on your skin. You also breathe it in. So it's like a multiple exposure route. So get rid of your air refresheners. Candle is really interesting. So candle in terms of like, phthalate smelling scent side of things speaking, yes, they could have phthalates. I know there are some other candles now trying to, soy-based candle. They're a little bit better. If candle is your thing, use it once in a while. It's okay. But if you don't have to use candle, try not to use it because besides the chemicals that used to make candle, burning the candle can also release a lot of aerosol and also these particulate matter. People might have heard about particulate matter, PM 2.5, whenever there's wildfire or any like air pollution, people always talk about this particulate matter. So burning the candle at home in an indoor environment, it's actually will release these PM 2.5s. So I would actually worry about PM 2.5 more than actually the scent. And the same as people burning incense at home, you know, because it definitely releases this particular matter, and these are also not good for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, if you don't have to do it. But, you know, once in a while, because you just love this candle, you love the atmosphere it creates, then use it occasionally. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about like a diffuser with essential oils? Is that an okay alternative?
It is an okay alternative. The interesting thing with the essential oil is it's a whole nother topic that, you know, because we have no regulation, right? Even if it's essential oil labeled USDA organic, many times you actually don't know what happens in the supply chain. So I think on the safer side, whatever essential oil you buy, make sure, okay, this is from a manufacturer that they have done detailed testing, making sure, okay, no heavy metal, no other thing. One thing we kind of found out is many essential oil, if they're like made distilled abroad, oftentimes people don't use like food grade processing. So when you distill essential oil, it goes through this really hot, you know, kind of like press, and then this process. And when the equipment that used to distill essential oil that's not food grade, oftentimes they're like, you know, they go through plastic pipes, of this because it's hot. So like everything in this manufacturing process gets into the essential oil. So that it have been tested. Some of the essential oils actually have like high phthalate levels because of not because the essential oil, the source is not good. It's during the manufacturing process, the contamination happened. And this is the same as like many other like kind of like petroleum based ingredients that you would see in your personal care product. Like you should always recognize like capitalize like PEG or PPG. Any of these like ingredients are petroleum based, and whenever anything is petroleum based, they often have the high chances getting contaminated by a chemical called dioxin in the process, and that chemical is a carcinogen. So that's why like when we select products, also look out for, you know, avoid petroleum based, you know, ingredients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's so much. Now I'm really curious about the essential oil stuff. I used to use tons, and I don't as much anymore, just kind of like every once in a while. I did make like a pregnancy stretch mark cream with like essential oils in it at home. So now I'm very curious about where they came from.
I mean, another check is like, you know, when we do these product audit, we also ask manufacturers if a responsible manufacturer. I mean, obviously, anyone who's in making clean beauty product, the reason they're making is also they want to be more responsible. And you can always email the manufacturer or any product that you're using. It's almost like a check. You know, when we email them, we ask them these hard questions. Hey, what's your manufacturing process? Did you use this and that? You know, if they give you a pretty honest answer, it's usually pretty good. But sometimes, like, they don't even know what to answer you. They don't even know what's going on. So then that's kind of like a bad sign, you know. You should be aware of these things. If they can't answer, then I would like, you know, we would like red flag that product.
Mm-hmm. So I have a couple more questions. Are bioplastics any better?
Plastic is also kind of like a lot of debate. So there's a difference between bio-based and biodegradable, and then or compostable. So there's like a different things with these terms, and then people often get confused. I mean, bio-based, you could be using blanking out on the material, but even if they're bio-based, if it takes like 100 years to degrade, that could still be called bio-based, but then it's actually not that great for the environment. So compostable is a better term if you're looking for, you know, a product that's like on the label. Compostable is a little bit better than, you know, say like bio-based, because anything could be bio-based.
Yeah. I know like a few products that I've gotten recently have come in like a sugar cane bio.
That's better.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If they specify, okay, mostly it's sugar cane or seaweed. Now there's some, you know, bio-based material made of seaweed, made of sugar cane. I think they're generally they're a lot better.
Mm-hmm. So the other question I have is kind of like, it might seem like a far off topic, but like you were talking about like how like the hormones and how, like when you remove things, like a lot of times people replace it then with something synthetic. And I would love to touch on full fat versus non-fat or low fat when it comes to foods, because I think a lot of people don't realize in order to make something low fat or non-fat, you're actually putting things in there that aren't good for you.
Yes. It's a chemical processing. It's a process that when you reduce the fat from your milk. So I always recommended people to go with full whole milk instead of non-fat or reduced fat. And the other myth that people don't know is that even for whole milk, whole milk contains about 4% fat. So 2% is only reduced half, and 4% it's not that much. By drinking a non-fat milk or 2%, you didn't reduce that much. It's kind of like a not worth it for you to go through, to actually expose yourself to extra stuff, and then you just, it's the amount is like so tiny. It's not even that much. Mm-hmm. But given that, you're not drinking milk as, water, you're drinking like all the time, right? Nobody does that. Mm-hmm. So I would always go with a whole fat milk instead of a non-fat. Mm-hmm. And also, if you can choose a glass bottle, packaged in glass bottle, rather than carton or plastic.
Yeah,
it's a harder one because it's a hassle. You have to then you have to bring back your glass bottle. It is available if you can do it. If you cannot, then don't get too stressed out.
Yeah. I mean, I fell for the whole non-fat thing when I was younger. I mean, I remember
I did the same.
working out with trainers 10 years ago, and they'd put you on this diet, and it's like non-fat yogurt and, just everything like that. And so you think, and they've done really well at marketing it, saying that that's healthier, but it's not. And it's interesting because before we recorded this episode, just this last week, I heard of 2 different studies talking about how that affects fertility.
Oh, and also nutritional science kept changing, right? And if you think about the history of the nutritional science, so many, maybe 20 something years ago, we said, butter is really bad. People should really consume margarine, right?
Right.
And then we realized, oh, shoot, margarine has a lot of trans fat. That's super bad for your cardiovascular system. We should eat animal fat instead. And then butter is good now. Bulletproof coffee and then many others, butter is actually not that bad. So it keeps changing. And so I think one rule of thumb when it comes to food is try to eat as much whole food as possible, not adulterated, and then not processed as much as possible. And then, if you do consume packaged food, make sure they don't have a whole long list of ingredients that you don't even recognize the name. That's an easy rule of thumb when you choose food, and and then trying to eat more at home as much as possible, because by eating at home, not only you increase your bonding time with your family, with your kids, you're also reducing your toxin exposures, because every time you eat out, think about those takeout container, not only the takeout container, also the utensils, plastic utensils, and the straws, the receipts, everything you kind of a touch, it also impacts. So cooking at home is always better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'd love to touch on, before we wrap up. So once somebody gets your test, let's say I order one of your tests and I do it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all of these toxins in my body. Now what? Do you kind of help people figure out what to do from there?
Yes, absolutely. We don't want to leave people just hanging there.
Holy crap, I'm full of toxins. What am I going to do?
No, we definitely want to tell you what to do. A lot of time, yes, it's involved changing your lifestyle a little bit. Okay, eat out less. Are you using a filtered water, water filter at home? And what are the products you're using? A lot of these are just around the lifestyle and also the products and the medications or supplements. One other tip, I guess, I also want to provide to people is not all plastics are made equal. they're not the same. So that little recycling symbol on the bottom of your any plastic ware, look out for 1, 2, and 5. 1, 2, and 5 are the ones you can also recycle, but 3, 4, 6, and 7 are usually pretty bad. Particularly 7. 7 is like others, like pretty much anything can go there. 6 is like polystyrene, and that's also pretty bad.
No.
Other things, 1, 2, 5 are usually the ones that you can actually recycle. So pay attention on that. The other thing is, busy mom with kids, oftentimes you probably don't, when you go out, you probably don't want to bring a stainless steel or glass container because it's heavy and it's not really convenient. During that time, we also recommend you use a silicone. You can use a silicone bag, which it's lighter. It doesn't break when you drop it. But knowing that not all silicones are created equal, so look out for food grade, platinum based, medical grade silicone. Those are usually safer. 2 brands we recommend. One is Zip Top, one is Stasher. So these 2 brands are pretty good. They use platinum based silicone. So we would recommend that.
Mm-hmm. Tip Top, and what was the other one?
Zip Top. Zip Top and Stasher.
Stasher. Okay.
Yeah, all these are also on our website. So we have, if you go to our website, go to resources, you can see the list of approved product. So we curated this list of product just to make it easy for people to look at, because we've done the homework so you don't have to do it.
Yeah, and I'll include that in the show notes too for people to be able to check out. So for people listening, if they're like, okay, now I'm curious, how many chemicals do I have in my body? What's your website? Where can they go to order this test and to find out more about what you guys are doing?
Yes, you can go to millionmarker.com. I guess I can tell a little side story. We named ourselves Million Marker because hoping one day we can discover over 1 million biomarkers in your body, so then we can actually help you prevent disease and live a healthier life. So people can go to millionmarker.com. That's our website. We're also pretty active on social. You can follow us on Instagram, million_marker. And we often post a lot of education material. We compare products, and people usually find those pretty interesting. And then obviously we'll also have knowledgeable people like yourself and have mamas come to our Instagram live. So we put those out. We're also pretty active on Twitter as well. So yeah, people can also sign up for our newsletter for more information. Or if you have any other questions, feel free to email us or email me. My email is jenna@millionmarker.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Thank you for all of that. And you guys also recently just started a podcast.
We started a while back, and then it's funny. It's like, it's really hard for a startup to have a podcast and then deal with your social, have Instagram and then have Twitter. It just got pretty overwhelming. And so we started recording podcasts, and we realized actually more people come to our Instagram live than podcasts. So then we end up doing more Instagram live, and we're hoping, okay, one day when we have more time, we'll move some stuff to podcasts as well. But I personally love podcasts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people can still go to your site, and you have a few podcasts up there. So if people are interested in listening to a few of those, because obviously you're interviewing people about toxins, about, all the things that we've talked about today. So if people want to kind of learn more about that, check out your Instagram, check out the few episodes that you have on your website. Your website also has tons of stuff for pregnancy and fertility. You talk, there's a whole section about preparing to conceive, fertility boosting foods, pregnancy safe products, chemicals to avoid. So if that's the season of life that you're in, definitely check out the Million Marker website, and I will have some links in the show notes. That's so cool, what you're doing. And I know that it can sound again, so overwhelming, because I'm somebody that gets overwhelmed because you just gave us those numbers now. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go in my fridge and flip over every single container. And what if there's a 7 in there? What if there's a 7? Of the plastic. I'm like, that's the worst one. And then I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm killing my family. Because that's how my mind works.
No, you're not killing your family. just get rid of it. It's a simple step. and it could get costly. So that's why we want people to take one step at a time. One other tip is think about the products that, cookware, everything that you use every day, because the more often you use it, that means you could have higher exposure. So always think about what you use most often, use it all the time, and then change those first. Like, food storage container is definitely one thing that we ask people to change. If you're using a Teflon pan, because you're cooking it every day, right? So then I would ask people to change that. And also shampoo, you probably use it every day or every other day in like pretty significant amount compared to say like lotion or other things. So think about something that you use it all the time and make sure that thing that you use all the time is good and clean. And that's a great first step to start. Mm-hmm. Then you can think about other things that, you occasionally use. Then, slowly swap out those. You don't have to throw away everything all at once right now. But next time you buy a product, make sure you buy a better product, good for you and also good for the environment. You're also voting with your dollars by, selecting a good product, supporting a good business, and, creating a more sustainable environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you said shampoo, I was like, man, I wash my hair like once a week.
No, that's good. That's good.
I'm like every day, not even close. Oh my gosh. Like tonight's hair washing night for sure. But it definitely is hard. But I've realized that there's like more options out there too. Like the last time I was at Costco, to buy the glass storage containers actually wasn't as expensive as what I was thinking. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. And it is hard to switch over. There's like a learning curve, I feel like too, because if you're used to nonstick cookware, when you go to stainless steel, I remember at first everything was sticking to the pan. It was so frustrating. Like you're trying to learn how to cook differently. My tip is I use a lot of butter or olive oil. So basically everything I cook, or tallow. I have some bison tallow that we use. So everything that we cook, if you come to my house, it's gonna be in butter or olive oil or,
delicious.
Yeah. It adds flavor. It's healthy for you. Fats aren't bad. Well, some are. These aren't. But yeah, so there is a learning curve, so it can be frustrating. Like if you're just used to, this is the way that I'm cooking, or this is the way that I'm used to doing things. And when you're trying out more natural products, like when you're switching deodorants, like that can be a tough one because your body actually has to detox, right?
Yes. And then also sometimes like one other complaint we heard is, this doesn't work. It's like too pasty, that white paste, especially when it comes to like sunblock or some of the natural hair shampoo that doesn't work with curly hair. Mm-hmm. Yes, that can happen. So it could create some frustration. In that case, we ask people, to try a new product. But if you have to default back, there are like, kind of like multiple categories of product. There's like some product just with horrible ingredients, and that's definitely a stop using that. But there are like some like slow, we put product in like a stop, slow, and go. Yeah. Some of the go might be not as user-friendly, but then you can pare it down to like a slow category. Yes, they have a few problematic ingredients, but they're not as bad. So any like changes you can make is good. Right. Like just a little bit. So like a little bit at a time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been using different toothpaste for years, like for years and years and years. And a couple months ago, I just found the natural one that I love. Because it like took me, because you'd buy one and you're like, this one doesn't make my teeth feel as clean, or this one doesn't like whatever it is. And, but then I bought the tube, so I'd have to use the whole tube because I can't like throw anything away. I'm that person that like, if there's a tiny bit left, I'm like, it's hanging upside down for 3 days, getting every drop out. Yeah.
I do the same. And I use a scissor to cut it off and then like scrape it.
Right. Yeah. I can't like waste anything. I also have a problem collecting jars. We have like so many jars in our cupboard, and my husband's like, babe, you have to recycle some of these. Like, you don't have to keep every jar of something that we buy. And I'm like, I have a problem. Like, I can't.
You can use jars to store food, right?
I do, but we have like a ton. But yeah, so I found a toothpaste that I really, really like, and I'll share. It's called Wellness. Have you heard of the Wellness brand?
I have not. But we're just really happy now there are so many clean beauty product brands, because people are demanding. You can see the trends that people are wanting these healthier alternatives. So, which is great for everyone. So then you have like a wider choices, and I'm pretty sure everybody can find something that suits yourself.
Is there any like certifications or things that you can look for, like on a bottle or on a product that is like, oh, okay, this is probably a pretty good one?
Yes. There are two organizations, actually multiple now. One really reputable organization is called Environmental Working Group, EWG. They're a pioneer in this field. So EWG certified is good. We actually take a whole step further, more stringent criteria when we're selecting our product. We don't have a certification program yet. We approve some product, but hopefully one day we're also in the process of trying to set up our own certification program by actually testing the product, because the current certification, either EWG or another one, is Made Safe. Made Safe is also pretty good. This is another certification, but either of them actually test for the product. One concern we had was when we started on this path is some manufacturers would use pretty good ingredients, but then some of them using not so good, not optimal packaging. So when you have a good product, if you have bad packaging, then whatever is in the packaging will leach into the product. When the product is not all fully tested, as you get it as a consumer, it's just hard to say, like the case, say, with essential oil, that we don't know what happened during the supply chain. Even if it's like, okay, yeah, it's passing all these things, but because nobody's testing for it,
the final product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then we don't have this objective data to really show people. That's something that we're planning to start. Hopefully we can roll this program out in the next few months, in the next half a year. But in the meantime, for easy, people can look for EWG certified, and they can also look for Made Safe certified. There are also a few apps out there trying to provide cleaner product. One is Think Dirty.
Yeah.
That's another one that, oftentimes people have used. But again, if you can, just trying to read the label yourself, avoid the fragrance, and then check out for any petroleum-based kind of ingredients. Anytime there's PPG or PEG, these kind of letters, you can easily recognize, and then you can ditch those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The EWG is awesome just because you can look up, let's say you're a big fan of whatever. Let's say you use all Pantene Pro V products. Yeah. You can type it in there, and there's red, yellow, and green, and the numbers on there. So you want to stay more with things that are green.
Yes.
Yeah. And the lower the number, the better. That means the lower number of chemicals or bad things are in there.
Yes. In general, that's it's really, really good tool. But also pay attention that many times that's one thing that we're hoping to change, or maybe work with EWG on that, is whenever there's a data gap, we don't have enough information, that ingredients always get rated 1. But in our opinion, that, whenever there's data gap, when you have no data, it doesn't mean it's actually safe.
Yeah.
So pay attention on that. But rule of thumb, if you're just starting, that's a great tool to use. Mm-hmm. Definitely look out for EWG certified.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jenna, for coming on the podcast. I had such a great time chatting with you. I have to go through all the plastic in my house now, and look at what number's on the bottom. And I definitely would love to order one of your tests. Although I'm nervous, because I feel like I do an okay job, but there's going to be 10,000 chemicals in there, and I'm going to be no. And then I'm going to feel like I have to burn my house down and move to a farm, and these are my thought processes.
But it's great. You're already doing so many, healthy things. So I feel like you shouldn't afraid. If you find anything, then it's power to you. Then you can actually pinpoint where to change next.
I know. I'll be like, I touched that Costco receipt yesterday. Now, now my unborn child has all of these phthalates, and it's just like not good. So
you'll be fine. You're already doing the right things.
I drive my husband crazy. So he's along for the ride, though. Like he's whatever, but.
He shouldn't feel lucky that you're doing this.
Yeah.
That's what I tell all the men listeners. Like, if your wife is doing this, you should really appreciate her.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. He's along for the ride. But I mean, he also helps me be like, babe, like chill out. Like,
yes,
we're doing okay.
That's
you don't have to like lose sleep at night because we ordered takeout and now there's plastics leached into our food and now we're dying. So
no, one step at a time. I mean, people gotta have some fun sometimes, right? Like you don't want to be stressed out, because if you stressed out, that stress hormone is also not good for you.
No, I know. I just feel like there's so many things out of our control that it's like, okay, what can we control? And like we were saying, plastic's just going to be a part of our lives forever. Like there's no way, like even if I'm buying, like the other day I bought organic strawberries. They're in a plastic container. Like, like there's only like so much you can do. So it's like, it's hard. I'm like, okay, there's so many things out of our control. We're exposed to so many toxins that are out of our control. So what can we control? But then I like go a little crazy. So, and it's expensive. Like you're saying, like, I mean, you have to slowly convert things. There's so many things like I'd love to change. I'm like, I want a whole house, air purifier, which is like $1 million. So, we don't have that.
Hey, you got to give yourself credit that you're already buying organic strawberry, right?
Yeah.
So, so some people are not even aware, like why should I even buy organic? And I know organics are more expensive, but oftentimes you have to make a choice. Another tip is, this is credit to EWG. EWG has published like 30 dozen clean dozen.
Yeah.
But rule of thumb is if you like any berry, because there's no skin, you can't peel the skin. Anything have no skin, like try to buy that organic. Any salad or green veggie that you just eat it raw, trying to buy organic. So spinach, kale are the most contaminated veggies with pesticides. So kale, spinach always go with organic. Any berry always go with organic because it's directly exposed to the pesticides. So you're already doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're buying organic strawberry.
Not all, most of the time. But like you said, it can be super expensive. So like one thing that I realized that is cheaper is frozen. So like buying frozen organic fruit is a lot cheaper. So we'll buy that to make smoothies and stuff like that just because, I mean, again, I was at Costco the other day. Everyone probably thinks I live there now, but like I don't always buy like the organic fruit because it's so expensive. And the organic strawberries were double the cost of the regular ones. And I'm like, well, we haven't had like fresh strawberries in a while, so I'll just, buy them. And then you like the raspberry packs are so small. I'm like, this is one sitting's worth, and it was $9. Like, what the crap? Like, it's so expensive. So, I feel like just trying to make those small changes and things like that are definitely where it's at. Do what you can.
Another doctor, I thought this is a kind of interesting analogy. One doctor we've talked to on Instagram Live, and then she posted about her thinking about investing in health. So investing in food, and think about like, if you get sick down the road, like one day, your medical bill is going to be like a lot. And then when we talk about medical bill or like prescription drugs, it's so much more expensive than, say, you buy a $9 raspberry or strawberry. If this thing can, invest in your health, if this thing can help you prevent disease down the road, it's a long-term investment, right? I think it's much better than paying for the medical bill later, which, if you get sick, not just you getting sick, you're really like your quality of life will change. And not only your quality of life, but your family who has to take care of you. Right. So I feel like the investment in food, in good product, it's a good way to invest in your health. So that's another mentality, mindset that, if people can shift that mindset, maybe it will make you feel a little bit better and also don't feel as overwhelmed about these things.
Right. Yeah. I also need to go check my supplements to see if they're all like vegetarian capsules. Gotta check. I got a lot of things to check after this episode. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to have all of the links in the show notes. And I just want to thank you for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your energy and time with us today. And just thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun.
I had so much fun talking to her because, like I said, I'm just so passionate about learning about these things, just wanting to make changes for myself, for my family, and learning whatever I can to set my kids up to be their happiest and healthiest. And it can seem so overwhelming when you do start to dive deep into the different information that's out there because, we haven't thought about it forever. Like even microwaving plastic. I microwaved plastic for years, and like a to-go container or some Tupperware that I had at home that's plastic and just you heat it up in the microwave. Never thought twice about it. But don't do it. It's not good for you. Thankfully, I haven't done it in a couple of years now, but still, there's still a lot out there that I need to change or make small shifts towards. So I'm really grateful for Jenna for coming on the podcast and for her sharing her information with us. All right. Thank you for your time and for listening, and make sure that you're sharing the podcast, that you leave a review so that's the best way to spread and share the podcast is by sharing it, leaving reviews, and continuing to tune in. So thank you again. Have a great week. Love you guys. It's going to be May. It's May next week, which is one of my favorite months because it's Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month, which I am definitely passionate about. So I'll be sharing some stuff on Instagram, so stay tuned into there. All right, love you.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing while you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies, and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture, and then we cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy podcast on your podcast app.